Joined now by Rink-Wide Vancouver's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, as we head into the showdown with the Oilers for possibly first place in the Pacific Division. Morning, Jeff. How are we?
Yeah, good. Excited. I mean, you can smell the playoffs in the air now, and basically this time next week we'll be doing a preview. We'll know all the answers to these questions that we're awaiting answers on, where and when and who. But before then, it's Edmonton on Saturday night. So, yeah, I think the Canucks should be excited about it. Obviously, the Oilers have a little bit of business to take care of before they see the Canucks, but still sets the stage for what should be a terrific back half of the Hockey Night doubleheader on Saturday.
We heard from Thatcher Demko earlier in the program. Jeff, you were able to attend the practice. First of all, how do you look and how do you feel about the plan that they've outlined going forward here?
Yeah, I mean, to my eye, and I'm no goalie guru, but have been around the game long enough, Ian Clark has worked this guy hard. Now, it's one thing to work a goalie or any player, in a practice and a morning skate when the bullets start flying for real. Totally different case here, but pretty intensive workout, I thought. And I've seen a few of them now this week. So he's been ramping it up. And Friday is a full off day, just a travel day to get to Edmonton. So we'll see if he's on the ice with this group. I mean, he traveled on the last road trip. So even though it's a one-off, he may very well be there. If he's going to play, he better be there. But he talked repeatedly about focusing on the home game against Calgary, the home finale on Tuesday night. So that sort of feels like the timeline here. And he was very confident in his belief that there's still enough runway here to get back up to speed. He talked about the fact that, it's been a month, but he's played 50 games this year. He's not just going to forget how to play the position. And also, you think back to last year, he was out, different injury and out a lot longer. But Rick Tocchet takes over when they got the green light to get Demko back in there. They played him a ton, and he got up to speed in a hurry. And I do think that's something at the very least for him to draw on. So, you don't want to kind of have to bounce back from injuries repeatedly. And that's been a little bit of the Thatcher Demko story over the last few seasons here. But I do think it gives him some comfort knowing that he's been through it. He has found his game in a hurry. And while you'd like to see him at the top of his game in whatever regular season action he plays, ultimately it is all about being there and good to go for game one of the playoffs.
With him hammering Tuesday, it sounded to me like he was messaging the club, like, I'm playing Tuesday, I'm not playing tomorrow night. Do you think there's any of that going on where they were thinking Saturday and he's like, nope, Tuesday?
Dropping into the Oilers game, I never thought a great idea, but go ahead.
Well,
Jeff.
yeah, and ask Aiden Hill how that worked out for him coming off injury the other night. It's tough. I mean, look, a week from now he's going to be playing playoff hockey, and that's going to be difficult too. But if it is all about, these final few days and that last few percentage points of full recovery, and look, goalies have to be so free and clear in their mind that their body is able to handle whatever, the brain needs it to do. And if you're thinking about things like that, then you're not going to be able to perform where you want to. Now, it was funny. There was some theater and some drama, and people may have watched the full scrum. Canucks posted it on their website, where Thatcher walks into the scrum and says, I feel good. I'm not sure about Saturday. Yeah, it's my knee. And basically started to walk away. But then he started messaging the Calgary thing. And the third time that he said, I'm focusing on Calgary, I said, you're not focusing on Edmonton? And that's when he dropped you guys are the worst. And it kind of felt like maybe he had let the cat out of the bag a little bit, just in terms of ultimately, whether it's his timeline, whether it's the team's timeline. Yeah, I mean, as much as you'd love to have your star goaltender in a big showdown like this one against an Oilers team that's been playing lights out, and particularly at home, guys, over the last, 10 or 12 games. I mean, pretty much untouchable. So this is a massive challenge for the Vancouver Canucks. But my hunch as I sit here on Friday with you is that we're going to have to wait a few more days to see Thatcher Demko back between the pipes.
So begs the question, who starts in goal on Saturday?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised that Artur Silovs got the opportunity. I think when you look at track record and history and experience and a little bit of rest here and maybe some motivation, Casey DeSmith went in on short notice and delivered a damn solid performance back now, night number 2 of the regular season. But, again, that's something for him to draw on. So my gut would tell me that they would go back to Casey DeSmith at this point. And remember, he was Mr. Saturday Night early on and checks the calendar. Who knows? But, Silovs, Yeah, he got them a single point and made some saves, but look, it's been a little shaky for him as well. The start against Vegas, a couple of long distance goals that went in against Arizona. I think the door is open there for them to go back to Casey DeSmith if that's the choice they make.
Okay, let's go to the forward lines because that was also interesting yesterday. Lindholm does become Teddy Bluger here for at least one day only here with Garland and Dakota Joshua. Ideally, you'd have another winger there for Elias Paterson because Miller's going to have Besser based on what happened at practice. Ideally, there'd be one more winger. There isn't. What did you make of the lines as we saw them yesterday?
It was the umpteenth time this season when Rick Tocchet spins the wheel that you land on that same conclusion that they're short a scoring winger. They just are. And if you move one from one place to another, it just exposes a weakness elsewhere. And if this is the way they're going to go, and it kind of felt like hopping in the time machine a little bit back to an earlier point in the season where Pia Suter played with Brock Besser and JT Miller, and Ilya Mikheyev is back with Elias Pettersson, and that cannot be the answer. I don't even know what the question is, but I just know that ain't the answer. One goal in 47 games for Ilya Mikheyev. And I keep saying it out loud because it doesn't seem possible, but that is just the truth. And kind of quietly, guys, Nils Höglander's gone a little bit quiet as well here. And so, again, everybody's expecting an awful lot of Elias Pettersson, and I get it, but there's also this idea that you want to believe that if he's making plays, that there's going to be some finish there. And I just don't know. I honestly don't know what to expect from Mikheyev. I don't know what his contributions can be. Yeah, you want a little hustle and some determination, but I mean, you'd expect that from every guy at this stage of the season, regardless of their price point. So Lindholm in the middle. I think some of us thought this as Dakota Joshua was getting back closer to full health. Hey, maybe there's an opportunity here, kind of as an upgrade to Teddy Bluger, that Lindholm can do a lot of the defensive things, but where Bluger doesn't have much finish. And remember, Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland set him up for a lot of opportunities. He contributed, mostly assists, but I think there could be something there. So that one excites me. I thought it was a decent return to the lineup for Lindholm. It's one game, and it was a weird game the other night. I know I haven't been on with you guys since, and we don't have to go too deep and revisit it, but the Canucks just looked off. I don't know if it was a lack of respect for Arizona, if they thought it was going to be easy, whatever. The Canucks just looked off and had trouble completing passes, had trouble breaking the puck out. That's against Arizona. So there are ways that they have to sharpen things up here. And so I'm not necessarily surprised that Rick Tocchet went into his bag of tricks and came up with some different line combinations. It looked like Podkolzin is going to be the odd man out again, which I thought maybe it would just be one game and a little bit of a message there and try and get him back into, to up his game a little bit. But he was the odd guy out at practice, and Nils Amon is a placeholder for Brock Besser, so we assume that Amon will sit as well. But yeah, of those three lines, you kind of know what you're going to get from Miller, Besser, and Suter. You've seen that, and they don't have last change, so we'll see how the Oilers dictate matchups and those types of things. But that third line is the one that I'm going to keep an eye on, and maybe the one that excites me the most of their top 9 forward group.
I was suggesting Lafferty instead of Mikheyev, Jeff. Does Lafferty deserve a return to the opening half? Not that he's been spectacular, but he just seems more likely to score a goal to me than Mikheyev does.
Lafferty just leaves me wanting. Like, the skill set is there. He's got the wheels. He can, when he's motivated, be a physical force and get in on the forecheck and separate guys. And it is kind of crazy. Like, honestly, to think that Sam Lafferty, Pia Suter, Ilya Mikheyev are all double-digit goal scorers. Like, it feels like none of those guys may ever score again for the Vancouver Canucks, and yet they're all in double digits. So where has the offense gone? Like, Suter, it's just been shut off entirely.
Yeah.
He can't buy a goal. Lafferty gives you an honest effort, but I think
he scored a beauty like 10 days ago.
Is it Suter? It's 1 in 30.
Yeah,
Suter since January 25th. He has 1 goal,
and
he's playing in the tops.
But to take that a step further, Matt, it was the 5-0 goal in the 5-0 win over Winnipeg.
So Jeff, gonna tell you wrong here. They're not 1 winger short. They're 2 wingers short.
They probably are.
And they could be 3 wingers short if Brock Besser isn't 100% healthy.
But if you can form duos, you're okay. But they can't even form duos.
The underlying numbers undeniably show that Pia Suter helps that line with Besser and Miller. So he contributes, but just doesn't contribute offensively. But as the line, they go. The issue here, guys, and I know it's about the here and now and what's happening a week from now, but both Mikheyev and Biasuda are under contract for next year too. Like, this idea that, this is just a slump for these guys. Like, what are they? And I guess ultimately, if you go back to the 3 guys that I talked about being double-digit scorers, you can draw through line to Elias Paterson. Like, all 3 of those guys spent time with Paterson higher in the lineup at certain points this season, and that's where their offense came. But really, the dynamic shifted when Nils Höglander earned the promotion. Like, Höglander used to torch opponents as a lower in the lineup guy, and then really they had no choice, but they moved him up. But that's kind of the last we saw of any regular scoring contributions from anybody that plays in the the bottom. Well, maybe not the bottom 6, because that third line can be effective. But yeah, I mean, there was depth scoring issues, and I do think that that's one of the huge concerns I've got about this hockey club here with what's to come.
How concerned are you with the Besser needing maintenance? A lot of maintenance, it seems, these days.
Yeah, I mean, without question, there's something there, right? 2 maintenance days this week, a third one not that long ago. He hasn't missed any game action, and he's continued to score. And so his quest for 40, I mean, I'm delighted for him that he got there. And, if they have to sit him down, that would feel like the prudent play. It would make life difficult if it happened against Edmonton. And Rick Tocco was a little cryptic. Like, he was asked at the tail end of his scrum yesterday, is Besser going to play in Edmonton? And he kind of said, yeah, I think so. I expect so. It wasn't this like absolutely
right.
He will be there. So it kind of does feel like a bit of a day-to-day thing. But, the fact that he hasn't been available after games to the media tells you that, treatment is the priority there. And I get it. And this isn't me playing the media violin. I'm just saying these are all tells about a guy and his health that, when he's playing the game, he's out there in uniform. When he's not, seems to be spending an awful lot of time in the trainer's room. And this is a huge part of the Brock Besser story, guys. As good news as the 40 goals has been, and what a season it's been for him, the fact that he's played 79 games to this point for a guy who has never been able to stay fully healthy and has had to miss large chunks of almost every season that he's played, that's a big part. You don't get to 40 if you're not available on a nightly basis. So, I would think Brock's as proud of being an every single night player for the Vancouver Canucks this season as he is being a 40 goal scorer.
And we don't have any guesses there as to what's going
on? No, the hands seem okay.
Yeah.
He's had we know a long list of injuries. So, mobility it's never been his strong suit. Like, it's not like he's lost a step and you're wondering about that.
No.
So, I don't know, but he's getting a fair bit of treatment these days. So clearly dealing with something.
Lastly, Jeff, Vasily Podkolzin scratched. He's the 13th forward, or I guess even 14th if you say Amon's in for Besser at practice on Thursday. Is this another missed opportunity for the one-time first-round draft pick to force his way into the National Hockey League and as a regular in this lineup?
I think they gave him a good long run here, and
he sure did.
His play was okay, and I think there were some moments. But I saw people lamenting the fact that he was being a scratch the other night, and they were like, "What about that pass to Paterson in Los Angeles?" And I'm like, "You can't hang your hat on one play in one game, a week ago as reason enough. This is the NHL, and Phil DiGiuseppe wants to play, and Nils Amon wants to be in there as well. And I think Rick Tocco's just looking for anybody now." PDG didn't do a lot to grab the brass ring, I didn't think, the other night. Like, he's got to be you got to notice him, right? Like, you do something, whatever. Like, there has to be, for one of these guys, there has to be a separator. And it just kind of feels like you're lumping them all in together right now. So I don't rule out Podkolzin entirely as a guy that could be in the night one lineup for the playoffs. But if he doesn't play in Edmonton, does he get back in for the home finale against Calgary? How many more opportunities is he going to get? And ultimately, there does have to be a bottom line, because we talked about depth scoring. And look, like, it's tough, and they're different players, and maybe it's not a fair comparison, but he was a 10th overall pick for a reason. The scouts saw something there that meant he was going to do more at the NHL level than just run around and hit guys. And it's so clear that a guy like Matt Boldy, who was taken 2 picks after him, is already, just miles ahead. But even Dylan Guenther, who comes to town as the 9th overall pick a couple of drafts after that, and it's always going to be tied to the Canucks, and Guenther takes over a hockey game the other night. Like, we just haven't seen anything like that. And quite frankly, Podkolzin doesn't look anything like the guy that broke into the NHL and had 14 goals as a rookie.
That's right.
So, he's another guy right here that, for all the talk of the player development, and there have been some signs of guys getting promoted from Utica. But what about a top 10 pick not that long ago that really does kind of feel like he's spinning his wheels and doesn't really know what he's going to be and what he can be at the NHL level?
These little bigger guys do take a little bit more time to develop, of course. You think about a guy like Capo Caco, who's still waiting to launch himself. It does take some time, but you're right. If you look at the back of the hockey card, 14 goals, 26 points in 78 games or something in that rookie year.
Guys,
like where was the development from there? Like, that's not a bad launching point way back when as a teenager. How come there hasn't been any? I mean, he hasn't come close to that.
Guys, it's 5 points in his last 37 NHL games going back to last
Doesn't make
year.
any
So
sense.
it's just there's no there, as Jeff outlines. And if there's no there, I mean, unless you're an incredible defensive player that you can't play without, then that's that. That's not an NHL player, sadly. Jeff, marvelous stuff. We'll be watching, listening to Rink Wide on Saturday night, and look forward to catching up next week.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great weekend.
Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.